I hope you're having a great time so far. We've got a lot more to learn. So today we're going to start with Lesson 3, which is the next 2 elements that are essential for great tricks. What are those elements going to be? Well, number 2, we're going to work on your basic obedience commands. Now, before you think, oh, Dawn, those are so boring, hear me out. And element 3, which is the sit pretty. Now, if you read my book, you'll notice it's sit pretty, stand pretty, sit pretty. And I'm going to be talking about that as well for those of you that are a little bit more advanced. You can continue building. But before I move on, I just want to say, great job, guys. The stuff that I'm seeing come in on element 1, the retrieve, has been fantastic. I love the way you're interacting with one another, and I really love the way that you're playing and exploring and trying different things. Now, couple of things, couple of reminders that I want to make sure that you continue to think about. Number 1, the first 3 weeks of this course are building a lot of value into these elements so that we can move into the advanced skills much easier, quicker, and more successfully. So please be patient and make sure that you're really exploring all the avenues and bits and pieces of the lessons before moving on too fast. Now, like I said, we have people in different levels here, so you might be ready for it, but I promise you, you will benefit and you will be happy that you were just a little patient. It's really only another couple of weeks before we'll be moving into some really super duper fun things. And what I don't want to have happen is I don't want to have somebody frustrated and behind because they didn't build enough value in the elements. Thing number 2 is make sure when you start to build, for instance, say you want to add a new item to retrieve, or you want to start retrieving into a new spot. Maybe the last time you did a chair, but now you want to try, say perhaps a cubby hole or a shelf. Make sure you only change one thing in the environment at a time. When you change many things in the environment at one time, it's really hard, number 1, for me to tell what's going on, but worst of all, it's hard for the dog to know what's going on too. So make sure that you only change one thing and make it very clear in your mind, one thing at a time in the environment. So, that being said, let's move on to lesson 3. And while obedience is something that most people, particularly my fellow agility aficionados, say, people think it's boring. The problem is that the basic stands not only promote their balance and their confidence, but we need them to be able to teach and move forward in many of the advanced behaviors that I want to teach you. So, I'm going to start by demonstrating how I free shape the basic positions, how I then start to put them together so that they have to really use their mind in discriminating what is a sit, what is the stand, what is the down, without me giving them too many hints on what to do. And then the third thing, I'm going to show you some different positions that I play with, so that obedience and holding it and proofing and understanding becomes a game, and it's a little bit fun, where the dog can sit and be solid, and yet you're moving into all these fun positions. If you do dancing with your dog, you'll find this invaluable. If you do confirmation with your dog, you'll also find this invaluable. And then we're going to move into the sit pretty, stand pretty, down pretty. That would be the next element. And with this element, it's all about core strength. If your dog is not ready to do all of the exercises in this particular section, don't worry about it. You're going to understand how to start it, find out where your dog is, and then also build from there. Wherever your dog is right now, it's okay. Remember what I said earlier, there is no rush. This is tricks. This is play. We're having a great time. So accept your dog where they're at right now, help them where they're at right now, and I'm going to show you some different phases in different ways with both a young dog and then also with an older, more experienced dog, how I build into the full sit pretty, stand pretty, sit pretty position. Once again, this is about strength, it's about understanding and coordination, which I need to know that they have very confidently, very solidly, before I move into some of the more advanced tricks. So, with that being said, let's take a look first at sit, down, stand, and Or maybe I'll throw in a little bit of take a bow, because that's really one of the simple tricks that can really be thrown in with this group. And another one that's also a little bit fun to add into your obedience repertoire. So let's go. So first, let's talk about the fundamental positions alone and the placement of reward. For the sit, I'm going to have her sit by lifting a treat in front of her nose, lifting her head slightly high, clicking when her bottom lowers to the ground. As soon as that happens, I click and I'm going to reward because I want them to hold the position. For the down, I'm going to lower the reward down into the chest and lower to the ground so that she backs into her shoulders. As soon as her bum lowers, click, 1, 2, 3, reward, because I want them to hold the position. For the stand, now this is one that some people have a little difficulty with. How I typically do it is I prefer a kickback stand, but if you do confirmation and you prefer them stepping forward into it, that is perfectly acceptable as well. What I do is I have them sit close to my front legs, and what I will do is lower their head a bit and then just ever so slightly put some pressure in. As soon as I see the back legs start to back up, their rear end lifts, I will also click and give them a reward. Just for the fun of it, since we're talking about tricks here, I'm also going to add what I call ready, steady, or take a bow. And ready, steady, or take a bow, I typically do off of the stand position. So I don't do this until I have a really good solid stand position. But I know some of you are a little bit more advanced, so I'm going to add that into this elemental section. And what I do then is similar to the down, only what I do as soon as I see them bending down into their elbows is I click on that. I start rewarding right near the chest before their bum has a chance to drop. Now, and this is critical, if you have a dog, because you've worked on the down, whose bum keeps wanting to drop, the other option you have is doing this sideways, where once again you take the head, pull into the chest, and bring down. But remember that exercise we did back on setting up for success, and I told you to touch them all over and get them comfortable? They may need a little support right back here, just under their hip. Are you going to do any pressure? No. Are you going to do a lot of lifting and forcing? No. But they might need support to get that right. Once again, as soon as you see the elbows come down and them lower, click, treat, 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 for them holding the position for just a second, and then always remember your play in between. All right, Danny. Come on, baby. Lay down. Stand. Sit. Stand. Ready? Yes. Yes, good job. That a girl. That a girl. Good job. That a girl. That was super duper. Super duper. Super duper, honey. That was super duper. So now I'm going to get a little creative and fun. And this is where, to me, the fun comes into obedience. I want some of that animation and I want that selling, but I also want to know that they have the solid understanding of the positions. The beauty of this is while you're playing this game, you're actually building skills that can be used in dancing with your dog and in many other different types of performance venues. And what I'm going to do is I'm just simply going to use the sit as an example here. What I'm going to do is just simply have her come to middle. That's one different position. And as soon as she does that, I will click and reward. After she does that, I'll step over to the side. And then I'll step over to the other side. Then back to the middle. Then I'll step back. Then I'll step forward. Each time that I do a different position, I'm going to reward her back in the sit position. In other words, in the same place so that she's able to hold the sit position without moving and getting reward for staying right there with her feet down in her solid sit. Of course, I would then build to do this in the down position and then also into the stand as well. maybe even into the ready steady or take a bow position. But nevertheless, what this does is a lot of fun too. What this does though is it really builds the strong understanding. I can't emphasize enough how important this element is. I know many people find obedience boring. They find it necessary, but they find it boring. Let's not let it be boring. Let's make some fun out of this, but also find the things there are to gain in that process. So I'm just going to show you the beginning of this, and then I'm going to show you how it builds into essentially a routine. Okay, so Danny, can you go to the middle? Middle. Good. 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 Nice. 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 Nice job! Yes, good job! Good job! Betty girl, good job! So for the next couple of days, play around with those obedience control positions because they're going to be super important to have when we move on to weeks 4, 5, and 6. Bring your own creativity and fun and joy, and those obedience control positions can be kind of fun. I only gave you a couple of ideas, but you bring your own creative ideas to this, and you're going to make up tricks with just simple obedience positions. So work on that for a few days, and let's move on to element number 3.